Thank you for being here for a live conversation at the HSMAI Southern Colorado chapter. We're here at the Hotel Polaris in Colorado Springs, and we'd like to get started. I'm David Millili.
I'm Steve Carran.
Steve Kinsley.
All right, so we're going to go through our format. We go through these lightning round questions, short answers. We're going to dive into your background, and then we're going to hit some industry topics. Sound good? All right, here we go. What's something you wish you were better at?
Golf.
All right. What's your most used emoji?
The guy with the sunglasses. Is that the cool dude?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that guy.
What's a luxury you can't live without?
Oh, God, good wine.
Okay. If you had a time machine, are you going into the future or to the past, and what year?
Past. Probably 1947. It looked pretty cool back then.
Okay. And what's your favorite city and why?
Oh, geez. Paris.
Very well
A
done.
lot of good reasons why.
Absolutely.
By the way, I'll be there on Friday.
We're jealous. We're all jealous. So, Steve, now we're going to dive into your background a little bit, kind of where you grew up, what makes you tick. So, you're a native Colorado guy, born in Boulder, and then you moved to Lodi, California.
Yeah.
How did those early days shape you into who you are today?
Oh, wow. So my father moved us to California to open a ski shop. I grew up in the ski industry. Skiing a bunch shaped me a little bit. I truly enjoyed that. I had to give it up a few years ago. But yeah, that was a big part of my life. And then coming back to Colorado for school, to Boulder, where both my parents went. But in Lodi, it was a small farm town. So you had that kind of small town community, which is very important to me. Community is very important to me, and finding your tribe. And that shaped me a great deal. I mean, literally, it was the 70s, and we used to cruise. You ever seen American Graffiti? Modesto was just down the road from where I grew up, and we used to cruise on School Street. It was interesting. It was a different time.
Yeah. So are we a primetime fan that you grew up in Boulder?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
So you went to the University of Colorado and you studied business finance. What led you to that school and that major?
So business school was always where I was going to go. I studied to be a landman, which is leases and contracts in the oil, gas, mining industries. I graduated in 1983, finally. And there were no jobs in that industry. Oil was $12 a barrel, and it cost $15 to get it out of the ground. So I moved to Vail to be a ski bum and a bartender. I had a fraternity brother who was running a little hotel up there, and he talked me into coming up. It didn't take very long because I was a ski bum and a bartender.
That's great. So this is where I'm going to let you plug your kids, because I know you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But I also want to hear one of your most intriguing adventures you had was in Slovenia, where you got lost driving and discovered some off-the-grid gems.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And I'll let you talk about your kids as well.
So we were in Slovenia. We were auditing a conference that we were going to manage 2 years later. And they asked us to come there, and it happened to be in Ljubljana, Slovenia, which is this wonderful university town, the capital of Slovenia, which used to be part of Yugoslavia, for those that don't know that. And we were on our way to go find the town of Bled, which is kind of like the Vail of Slovenia, but it's on a lake. It's beautiful. And we took a wrong turn. My wife was navigating. And we ended up in this little valley that was very interesting. And we drove through this valley. Okay, how are we going to get out of here? And we ended up at the end of the valley, and at the end of the valley, there was this tram. And we're like, oh, we got to take the tram. It's running. It's middle of summer, but we take this tram up to the top of this mountain over this cliff, and there's all these cows up there. And I mean, it was just so pastoral. And then there was the tram building itself, and there was a restaurant in there, and there were a bunch of Germans in there just getting hammered on drinking beer and having a great time. And it was just a lot of fun. And my kids were 11 and 12 at the time, and they thought it was the coolest thing ever. We finally did find Bled, but it was only with about 3 hours left of daylight, so we didn't get to spend a lot of time there. But Slovenia, I highly recommend it. Cool place. One of the most literate countries I've ever been to. Everybody speaks English. The food was awesome, and just kind of a neat place.
That's great. So now we're going to get into your career, how you got to be where you are today.
Sure.
So you got into hospitality when you moved to Vail, and you moved there to be a ski bum.
And I screwed up and got a real job.
I know. Wish we could all do that forever. But tell us about why you chose Vail and any fun stories you have while you were a ski bum.
Well, I chose it because my fraternity brother needed a bartender, and I'm like, I'm in. And a couple years after a year of bartending, I went back to Vail. I tried to escape, went back, front office, bellman, limo driver, then front desk clerk, then front office manager, and a couple months later, I was the hotel manager. I had an apartment in the hotel, which honestly I don't necessarily recommend, because when the night auditor calls you at 2 a.m. because that can't figure out the audit and you've been drinking, it makes it really interesting. Yet you still figure out the audit. I then was introduced to a gentleman at the Broadmoor back in 1984. Had a long conversation with him. He was the director of sales, conferences, and food and beverage back then. And he said, I'll call you when I have an opening. And literally 6 months later, he called me and said, when can you start? And I went to the GM of the hotel in Vail, which is now the Gravity House, if you know that. And I said, hey, Dean, I got an offer from the Broadmoor. I'm going to go down there. He says, I just promoted you to hotel manager like 4 months ago. I said, Dean, it's the Broadmoor. He said, okay, I get it. So I went to the Broadmoor as a conference manager. About 2 months there, I met my wife. Allison brought a group to the Broadmoor, and I was her conference manager. She fell for me like that. You can ask her, really. And that was September 28, 1985 at 3 p.m. was our pre-conference meeting. So yeah, that 4 years at the Broadmoor, conference services sales, director of sales when I left. And yeah, ended up in San Francisco for a few years. I went to work for the St. Francis when it was just Westin. And then I went to work for Kimpton as a GM in San Francisco. I opened the Hotel Triton, which is way cooler than I am. At the time, it was easily the coolest hotel in San Francisco. Very modern, art-driven. Yeah. She got pregnant. We decided to come back to Colorado to raise a family, and I ended up at Keystone Resort for 5 years in sales. And then I opened the Hotel Teatro in Denver as the GM. The impetus to go to work for Allison was a little over 26 years ago. April 20, 1999 was Columbine High School. And that's the closest high school to our house. Not our school district, but it affected, obviously, our community a great deal. And that's when Allison and I decided to work together, which we talked about previously. So June 2nd, 1999 is the official start date of Steve Kinsley at Kinsley Meetings. So yeah, a little over 26 years ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and so one of the things we like to find out is, having all those roles, having lived on property, sales, operations, what are some of those early days, the things that you take away with you that you still use today?
Wow. I was very early on a leader. I was a director of sales of the Broadmoor at, 27 years old. And it was very much let your people do their job. You're there to support them, not manage them. I've never been a good manager. I'm better at letting people, giving them enough rope to hang themselves, and hopefully they don't. That's, and if they ask questions, I'm there to answer them. I'm there to take care of them. Same thing with our staff now. I don't plan meetings necessarily. We've got a great team that does that. And whenever they need help, they come to me and say, hey, do you know anybody in this city? Can you help with this? Can you help with that? And that's what my job is.
That's great.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, in 1999, you went to go work with your wife at Kinsley Meetings. Mm-hmm. For those that aren't familiar with Kinsley Meetings, can you give us a little background about what you all do and, a little bit more about Kinsley? Yeah,
we're a full-service meeting and event planning agency. We're very association-focused in our client base, probably 75% association clients and 25% corporate / kind of a government, quasi-governmental thing. The biggest meeting we manage is about 6,000, and then we do a bunch that are 25 to 50 people for a couple of our clients. A lot of committee meetings, that kind of stuff. A lot of association annual meetings, and then a few corporate clients as well, which it's nice to have those interspersed because they usually have a little bit bigger budget, so they can do a little more fun things than some of our association clients. But we're very good at the association model, managing budgets, because a lot of the association annual meetings, that's their one big show to make some money that year. And if they don't make the kind of dollars they need to make, they might have to lay somebody off. So we make sure that we manage to that extremely well.
Follow-up question for you. Why did you decide to focus on associations? Was that a natural progression?
Easy question. 2008, 9, 10, the economy tanked. We were predominantly corporate. In 1 year, we lost 40% of our business. Had to lay some people off. And it made us realize, because Allison had come from the association side, and she knew that side very, very much. And it was, we've got to get more association business, because the bylaws of an association say that they have to have an annual meeting every year. So during the pandemic, they had annual meetings every year, and they were virtual, and we took them there. We didn't lay anybody off during the pandemic. We were very fortunate that we didn't have to do that, and our association clients were very grateful that we were there to help them through that process as well.
Absolutely.
So you're an HSMAI alumni.
I am.
Part of the Junior Achievement.
I'm very involved with Junior Achievement.
And so take us through, so associations are your clients, but why is it important for you personally to be part of associations?
Yeah, so I've always been involved in the community in some way, shape, or form. When I was living in the Springs, I was very involved with the United Way down here. When we were living in San Francisco, I was very involved with a group called the Guardsmen, which raised money to send underprivileged kids to summer camp. And then I was a Junior Achievement kid in the 8th grade. So I was a Junior Achievement student, so that always has rung true with me. And JA is all about financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship. And those three things are very important, especially financial literacy. Then the state just passed a law that high school kids have to have financial literacy before they can graduate. But it's an unfunded mandate. They don't have any money for it. So organizations like Junior Achievement come into the schools, free to the kids, and offer financial literacy courses. So yeah, I've been on the board of JA Rocky Mountain for 16 years now. I'm a past chair. Yeah, it's very important. Community involvement is very important.
That's great. So you've been in the meeting space for about 26 years now. What's your favorite part?
Wow. I mean, the client interaction, I think I've always enjoyed. I'm a pretty outgoing guy, and I really enjoy that part. And I enjoy this part, getting involved in the industry, the hotels, the resorts that we get to visit, the places we get to visit. So don't ask me my favorite hotel. It's impossible. Don't ask me my favorite place to visit, because that's almost impossible. Paris is way high on the list, mostly because the food.
Absolutely. 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 Well, that's great. So now we're going to move on to the kind of industry thoughts, thought leadership section. This is where I want you all to kind of think about if you have a question to ask Steve when we're done, but kind of keep some things in mind. So, the meeting space has changed over the past few years, especially went through a huge change during COVID.
Sure.
How has it evolved over the past few years, and how have hotels adopted those changes?
Sure. So clients are now much more objective about why they're holding meetings. It used to be, well, we had it last year. So the question comes up much more often, why are you holding the meeting? What are your objectives? And if you can't answer that question, don't hold the meeting. And we get involved with event design with some of our clients and asking that question. That has evolved a great deal since before the pandemic. As far as hotels, I think there's less frivolous meetings, more specific meetings, and the hotels have become even better partners along the way, because they know they had to. They had to evolve just like we've had to evolve, and our clients have had to evolve in creating the customer experiences that drive that engagement that the customers and their attendees are looking for. It was a little less about engagement, I think, before the pandemic on an individual level. So you've got to become a little more, dedicated to creating that engagement and that experience that people are going to remember consistently. It's no longer just about the food and beverage. It's what are you serving? What are you serving? How are you serving it? Especially with the corporate clients, they're a lot more involved in making sure that the attendees are fully engaged. And for us, it's a lot more about creating white space in conferences where people can network, because that's become so important over the last few years, much more so than previously. And it's less about the sage on the stage talking to you and more about interactive sessions and more peer learning. A lot less about the guy on the stage who might be the expert that you're not sure about, as opposed to us sitting down at a round table together and talking about our experiences.
I love that.
Yeah, so kind of continuing on that track, what role does personalization play in having these successful events? And what can hotels do to deliver unique, memorable experiences and also where it's scalable?
Right. Yeah, scalable, that's important. So I'll give you an example. You check into a hotel or a resort, and when they get to the desk, they greet you by name because the Bell staff has said, Mr. and Mrs. Kinsley are heading to the desk to check in, and they know that. That kind of thing creates that sense of belonging that people that stay in hotels and resorts want. And when the staff uses your name on a consistent basis when you stay somewhere, even in a big hotel, it's pretty amazing. Those kind of experiences, engagements make a difference and make people want to come back. So when you can create that within a conference, and it's really about the staff driving that, our staff is very good in when we manage conferences and put together conferences, we're managing registration and all those things. You might talk to a lot of people that have a lot of questions. So when they come up to the desk to check in, our staff will call them by name. Yeah, they might have their name badge on, but hey, we talked on the phone. It's that kind of engagement that it makes people happy. Happy is good. Happy makes a better learner as well. And then in designing conferences with our clients, it's all about when are we going to make the opportunities available to the attendees so that they're going to be able to engage with other attendees. Like I said, that networking part is so important. You can get a lot of the education online. You don't have to go to a conference to get education necessarily. So it's that networking part that really makes a difference. And in our industry, it's about relationships. Still, to this day, it's about relationships. I've known Tammy for a long time and Tom for a long time. And if we have an issue, I can call them and we're going to work it out. It's still about relationships. And I truly believe that hotels, it's booking conferences, it's still about three things: dates, rates, and space. The client gets two, the hotel gets one. You want these dates and this rate, here's the space you're going to get. You want this space and these rates, here's the dates you're going to get. But then from there, it becomes that relationship and what we can work out to make things better for our clients, for our mutual clients. And that's what it is. It's a mutual client.
You bet. Personalization is so key in hotels. Quick story on my end. I went to the Rambo Hotel in Denver last week. And most of the time you walk to the front desk and, they get that tip, right? Mr. Carran's in. But I stepped out of my car and the valet was like, Mr. Carran, it's good to see you. Andrew's inside. And I was blown away. Yeah. And it made my day.
Did you ask him how he knew?
I let him keep it secret. But we'll be back, but I'm going to figure it out. So I either think he knew my car or had a headshot of me. I don't know. But I was very impressed. And I told people about it. Like I'm talking about it here. That personalization, it leaves a lasting impression.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that we talk about on the podcast quite a bit is sustainability. I feel like it's gone just from a buzzword to now more people actually finding out ways to implement that, whether that's events or hotels.
Sure.
Do you have any suggestions for meeting planners on how they can be more sustainable and how hotels can deliver a great experience, sustainable experience without sacrificing anything?
Yeah. So when we send out an RFP, in there it talks about sustainability in advance. What are your programs? What are you doing to make your hotel more sustainable? And we request that you don't change those programs once we sign a contract. Most of our clients have an eye on it. It's not their main focus. It's not why they choose a hotel, but they have an eye on it and they request to know what those things are. I recommend that hotels, if it's legal, get involved in food sustainability. We've got we just had a great session for MIC and a online session, three sessions, and I think it's being recorded as well, about food sustainability and food waste, that kind of thing. I think that's probably more important than anything else. Nowadays when they build new hotels, they're all LEED certified, and from that perspective, they're doing well. But I think food waste is a problem. I've always kind of had an issue with that. And any hotel that can get involved with a food bank or something like that to help with that, I think is very important. And I think buffets, no problem. I think buffets should head toward being a thing of the past because there's a lot of food waste with a buffet as opposed to a plated meal. It's hard to convince some clients of that because they want to be quick, that kind of thing, or several offerings. But that, to me, is something that I think probably should go way of the dinosaur.
On the food side, are you seeing any trends of eating more local for events or anything like that?
Yeah, local is very important. Local and fresh and that kind of stuff has become very important because I think you get better food.
Absolutely.
You know, the avocados from Mexico, I'll keep going with that because that's okay. But do we need, you know, tomatoes from Mexico? Because that to me is a little less sustainable. And if tomatoes are out of season, then don't eat tomatoes.
Sure.
You know, eat something more local. And a lot of the chef-driven places that we go to are very much about that seasonal menu, changing it often. It's a little harder in a hotel or resort to change the menu seasonally, but some of the great ones do.
You bet. And sorry, I don't mean to keep asking questions here, but kind of, do you have just one great tip for hotels or events, you know, on how to be more sustainable?
Wow. I mean, I go back to the food waste thing. Figure it out. Figure out what you can do to decrease food waste.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So what we want to know is what trends are you seeing in group business? And a couple things, are planners booking further out? Are they being more conservative, or are they trying new types of formats?
All of the above. Our clients being association-based, we book further out anyway. We're booking stuff into 2030 right now. The corporate clients, they're usually a year out. You know, we're big enough that they're usually a year out. Some of the smaller committee meetings, that kind of stuff might be 6 months out or even 2 months out. But when you're dealing with a 25-person group, it's a little easier to find a spot than a 250 or 6,000-person group. Go back to the question again.
So question, are they further out? You said kind of your deal is most of them are, even 2030 is amazing.
Yeah.
Are they being more conservative, and are they trying new formats, new types of venues?
Yeah. So conservatism in bookings, I think, is existing. I think most hoteliers would probably agree with that right now. We're finding, though, that we've got a couple of clients that we're having to get overflow because they've been too conservative to start with. So, I mean, we've got one that, I mean, usually it's about 700. We're up to about 900 people already registered. So we've got 2 overflow hotels, which is great, but it makes us scramble a little bit more than we should. And they've always been too conservative, and we've accused them of that for years. So they've gotten a lot better about, okay, we need to book at least 600 rooms. And then formats, typically shorter because they want to be cognizant of people's time. And then again, like I said, in designing them, a lot more white space, more networking opportunities, more peer learning opportunities. That kind of stuff happens a little bit more. A little less on the AV production side because that gets expensive. And they've realized that, you know, you don't need to have a 70-foot wide, 30-foot tall LED screen at the front for a ridiculous amount of money, because you're still going to have the same impact if you've got the right people on stage.
Right, makes sense.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm finding that groups and conferences are needing quiet rooms or inclusive networking.
Yeah.
You know, areas that are inclusive for those folks that need quiet space or time to their people out, if you will. Are you finding that?
Yeah. Several of our groups are very cognizant of inclusivity. And it's not just, you know, those that are physically bound, but neuro-inclusivity as well, and creating quiet spaces for them to go recharge, because you need to do that. You know, Allison, my wife and partner, is what she would call a high-performing introvert. So she can go, but then she's got to stop. She's got to stop and recharge and go find a quiet space, read a book, whatever.
Do you feel that's more from COVID? I feel like it's kind of started with the pandemic a little bit more. People are more aware of that, or
I think the awareness has increased since COVID. We were actually doing it before. And there's a group, and I can't remember the name of it, I'm really sorry, about neuro-inclusivity as well, that started with a gal, one of the senior people at Microsoft. I wish I could remember the name of it. But they're building on it a great deal. And you'll see it at things like MPI WEC and PCMA's annual meeting. There's a lot more of it going on now. Yeah.
It's great. I'm going to pause. Any other questions here you want to throw?
Yeah.
When you're booking out groups until like 2030, how do you handle pricing? Just because with the economy how it is and everything is just kind of foreseen? Like, how do you deal with that?
Typically, there's a pricing escalator, but it's one of those things you'll review every year leading up to it to make sure that we're in the ballpark and what would be fair pricing for the location, the group, all that kind of stuff. In some cases, we might go down a little bit, depending on what the market is saying. But there's an escalator built in to the contracts typically. Yeah, that's hard. You know, where you're booking a group in 2029 and the Gaylord in Southern California, the new Gaylord, and the price is, you know, $379 a night. And it's going to escalate 3 to 5% a year. What drives that? How do you figure that out? And you make sure that you check it every year and say, okay, where's the market right now? Yeah, I've got a great guy that does that for me, so.
Might need to introduce that guy to her.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just curious, kind of with the rise of virtual and remote events, do you find that's way more prevalent? Is it
No. We're in the face-to-face meetings industry. Virtual we had to do for a couple of years. None of our clients are doing anything virtual anymore. We're in the face-to-face meetings industry. This makes a difference. That is hard. We all did it for a couple of years, and yeah. Guy sitting there in his pajamas, drinking a beer, yeah, whatever.
You caught that podcast, right?
Yeah. And we do it enough now just with clients, and most of us don't turn our screens on anymore. Yeah. We just talk. It's like being on the phone. But you can share your screen to show things, which is good. I hate not sharing my screen, or turning on my camera. That's just me. My staff's like, really, Steve? Turn off your camera. We don't want to look at you. So.
It's great.
What about with contracts? Are you still seeing those, forced to move?
Depends on the market. You know, first-tier markets are first-tier markets again, with maybe the exception of San Francisco, which is still coming out of it a little bit because they got beat up really, really. It was hard on them. I was on the San Francisco Customer Advisory Board years ago, and I've seen what they've suffered through. I was in San Francisco a year ago, and the place actually looks great. There's a lot of empty retail, but overall, we walked around a bunch, never felt unsafe. And the city itself was pretty clean. So I highly recommend looking at San Francisco if somebody wants to go there right now, because you can get a pretty decent rate. But overall, it depends on the market. You know, second and third tier cities, you're going to get better deals and better terms and conditions, a little more flexible. And it depends on the dates too. You know, if you're going in a busy season, don't expect a lot of flexibility. If you're going in an off season, you're going to get more flexibility. Yeah.
That's great. Any other questions? All right. So we're in beautiful Hotel Polaris.
Yes. Beautiful.
Unbelievable.
First time here.
It's incredible.
Not going to be my last.
No, absolutely not. Do you have any advice for independent hotels like Hotel Polaris to compete with the bigger brands when it comes to events and meetings?
Get involved. Yeah. Get involved in things like this, MPI, PCMA, ILEA, NACE, whatever. Get involved, because that's going to get your name out even more. You know, that was the best advice anybody ever gave me 100 years ago, was get involved. And I've been involved in MPI. I'm actually on the international board of MPI right now. I'm a past president of the Rocky Mountain chapter. PCMA, same thing. I haven't been on the board of PCMA, but I've always been involved in PCMA. I can only do so many things at one time. And then MIC is another great involvement opportunity. I was on the council for several years, and now we manage MIC. And for those who's been to MIC before? Okay, that's a lot of people. It's a great networking opportunity and a great opportunity to get in front of 300 planners that are Rocky Mountain region. And we're looking at actually changing it up and maybe inviting planners nationally, and we'll see how that goes. But it's get involved. That's all I can say. It's just, you can't not get involved.
I agree.
So what excites you about the future of meeting and events, and how should hoteliers be preparing for the future?
Anybody read Mark Cuban's quote about that a few months ago? He's like, meetings are going to take off in a huge way, because we're all getting involved in this AI stuff, and we're not doing as much face-to-face as we want, and all of a sudden we're all going to want to be in front of each other a lot more. And I mean, I love the guy for saying that. More face-to-face is going to happen because of the internet, AI, those things that are keeping us from being face-to-face as often as we'd like to be. We're social beings naturally. And even the younger generations are craving it a little bit. But again, you've got to create an opportunity for them at a conference because they network differently than, I'm a boomer, than we do, and Gen X and Gen Y. The younger generations do it very differently. So you've got to create opportunities for them to do it. And we've done that over the years for various conferences we've been involved with. We've done conferences for software engineers. For those, we put out chessboards and Chinese checkers and that kind of stuff. And that's how they interact, more so than just doing this. They're not as comfortable doing this. So you create opportunities for them that create comfort for them to network.
That's great. All right, so before we get to more audience questions, we have a couple questions that came in through LinkedIn. So the first one is, what effects have you seen with the current political climate when it comes to meetings and events?
So for our clients, no effects that we've seen. Nobody's changed a venue, done anything like that. I was just talking to somebody earlier today, a competitor who lost a piece of business to Canada because of the political climate here in the country. Corporate. Associations don't tend to drive that way. Corporate entities tend to drive that way a little bit more, depending on the corporate entity. So we haven't seen it with our clients. They haven't avoided anything. They haven't not booked somewhere. They haven't canceled anything, which is, knock on wood, really good. We're having our probably our best year ever right now. And 2026 looks really good. And I think a lot of people see that. The hoteliers that I've talked to say 2026 is going to rock. So, yeah. And then you've got coming up the decade of what you would call sports or whatever, with the World Cup coming and Super Bowls and all the things. I'm on the LA Convention Advisory Board currently, and they're just ramping up for all kinds of stuff. The Olympics coming up this decade of, wow, a lot going on. So
that's great. So what's one piece of advice that you've received that sticks with you, or maybe you pass on to some other people as well?
I mean, it's that one I said earlier, is get involved. Very early on, I was told that. When I got to the Broadmoor, my boss was like, you need to get involved in something, whether it be community-based or industry-based or both. So I joined HSMAI, I got involved with the United Way, and I've always taken that to heart because you never know where it's going to lead. When I was on the hotel side, my involvement found me new business. Don't be afraid to chat with somebody. I mean, people get on a plane, they stuff their headphones in and they're off and running. I've closed business or found new business on plane rides before, both as a hotelier and in what I'm doing now. It's crazy. And network relationships, man, I just, if any of you know Michael Dominguez in our industry, the CEO of Alhai, Mike and I are dear friends, and we've always talked about it for years, from when I originally met him, that how important relationships are in this industry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now, perfect timing, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Well done.
Oh, good.
We set aside
I can
10
talk
minutes
a lot
for
more.
Yeah. We set aside 10 minutes for questions. So now I'm going to kick it back to you all. Any questions from the audience for Steve here?
We've gotten a few. I'm happy for more.
Steve, how big is your staff? How many people on your staff?
So there's 10 of us full-time, including Allison and me, and then we've got 3 contractors we work with very consistently. We touch 70 to 80 programs a year. Like I said, ranging from 25 to 6,000, but we've probably got, of the 70, probably 25 to 30 are smaller, and then we've got 30 to 40 that are pretty good size, 500 on up. And we're on site for most programs, not all programs. And like ProGreen is a big one we do. We might bring in a couple contractors as on-site people to help us with that because it's so large. Or if we're going to a city, or if we've got several programs at one time, we'll bring in contractors to be on site with us and assist on site, depending on the city we're in.
You seeing one city hotter than anywhere else? Anything on fire? Nashville for a while?
It still cycles a bunch. Every client in the world wanted to go to Nashville for a few minutes, right? And they couldn't get in. So they went to wherever, San Diego, Orlando, San Antonio. It cycles a ton. You know, some years we don't go to Orlando once. Some years we go 6 times. You know, and San Diego is always popular. Denver's very popular. Boston's really popular. Not as much DC. San Francisco's starting to come back. Seattle gets a little play every year. Chicago. One of the biggest issues with Chicago is it's going to cost a lot more. Just plan on your budget being half again as big because of the unions in Chicago. It just costs more. And then Las Vegas. Las Vegas is always, you know, we might do 1 or 2 a year in Las Vegas. Some years we don't do any, but then we'll do 3 or 4 in a year. And those are typically bigger, you know, 800, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. You know, and honestly, Las Vegas drives attendance. It's amazing, but it drives attendance. People want to go to Las Vegas.
But what about, so we've been in Dallas a
Oh,
few
yeah.
times. Is that like more of an up and coming city, or is it?
DFW has always been there. It's solid. I was on the Fort Worth advisory board for years and love Fort Worth. Love doing business there. And we do something there probably every other year. You know, we've got an 800-person conference that probably goes there every other year. And they bounce between San Diego and Tampa. Tampa's another one that gets a lot of play. And they've redone their convention center, which is really nice. Everybody's redoing their convention centers right now. It's crazy. We do one program in Savannah every year. Week after 4th of July for 800 people. It's hot and sweaty, and it is what it is. You know, it's a school, IT professionals for schools, and that's when they have time off. So, and they bring their families, and it's a really cool event.
It's great. Love Savannah.
So you name the city, I've probably done something there. Niagara Falls, Buffalo, Wichita, Fargo, North Dakota. You name it, we've probably done something there. Yeah,
Do you utilize the services of the local convention and visitor?
always. Oh yeah. The DMOs that we work with always get copied on RFPs. So they know we're coming, and we'll use them for the services that they can offer, especially for a year or so out. We'll use them for the marketing, that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, we love the DMOs. Yeah, when MIC is a good example. We'll get 30 to 35 DMOs that exhibit at MIC every year. There's some DMOs that have told us we'll exhibit it with you guys and at IMEX. So only 2 places we exhibit. So yeah.
I have a self-serving question.
Yeah.
So we're doing an event next year.
Yeah.
We did it this year in Dallas, and the organizer, it's a tech company, but we're going to do all the videography and photography.
Sure.
They were deciding between Vegas, Miami, or Mexico City. So I personally was right away, I was like, Mexico City, I think that might be a difficult draw. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, you got to have a passport. You don't need a visa currently, but if you've got people coming from other parts of the world, they might need a visa. Logistically, Mexico City is a little harder, but we've done a lot of business in Mexico over the years, mostly the Caribbean and Baja sides. Yeah, incentive trips. Those are more fun. We don't do a lot of incentives anymore since we moved to more association business. But I mean, those are 3 good choices. Miami is, I think, pretty expensive these days. I don't know where Mexico City is at price-wise. And Las Vegas is Las Vegas. I mean, it just, I'd love to go to Mexico City, personally.
We're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So food costs, are your association clients kind of shocked at the?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. You know, they've all got budgets, so, hey, chef, can you create a menu within this budget? That's kind of how we drive it. You know, share the budget, become the partner, that kind of stuff. You know, don't just give me 10% off your catering menu, because guess what? The chef's going to take 10% off the food. So you're going to get the price you want, but you're going to get less food, because that's how they work. They've got budget numbers that they have to meet as well. So, you know, instead of a 8-ounce steak, you're going to get a 7-ounce steak. You know, it's the way it works. I ran a hotel. I get it. So really, it's just, hey, chef, let's talk about what we've got available to us, resource-wise and budget-wise, and let's create something creative. And chefs love that. They love being creative. They really do. I remember when I was at the Broadmoor, Henry Trujillo was the executive chef. I used to love sitting down with Hank with a client. That was awesome. I'd tell him to bring Hank a good bottle of scotch, and he was all over you. Yeah.
Any other?
Here, I got you this time.
Oh, appreciate you. Thank you. Hey, you're on it.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We haven't heard from the back table yet.
You're making it
I
easy
gotta
on me.
call y'all out.
You're making it easy.
So I do have one.
Okay.
I had been thinking about, I was figuring out the best way to articulate it. We know that you've done multiple positions in properties, and that we know that relationships are the biggest point in everything that we do. But within the positions that you held throughout your career, what was probably one of the toughest positions you've held?
General manager. And partly because you're responsible for everything, but partly because I'd go to bed at night praying there wasn't a fire in my hotel. Because it happened once. And the fire department, the first call you get, the first call made is to the general manager, not the fire department. That freaks you out a little bit. And it was a very small thing. It was easily contained, but that's why I'm not a general manager anymore. That stress of going to bed, praying that your hotel wasn't going to catch fire. My favorite job was conference services manager, because when I was in the Broadmoor, I was Steve No Problem Kinsley. Steve, can you do this? No problem. Anything, what's it going to cost, right? Anything for a price, I can make it happen. And I did. That was my favorite job as a conference. Oh, and that's also where I met Allison. So, and then remember, she fell for me like that. You can ask her next time you see her. So, yeah. And BGM, it had great rewards, too. I had a lot of fun doing it. I was always out front. I was a manager by walking around guy. I wasn't in the back working on spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. And my boss would talk to me about the P&L. And I'd say, yeah, this, and this. He said, well, you need more there. I'm like, let's take care of the customer first, because that's what's really going to take care of the bottom line. And I was my first GM job, let me think. I was like 1991 or 2. I was 31 and a half years old. And for Kimpton, and Kimpton was a very well-run company, very efficient. And I jumped into something that, holy cow, what did I get into? And my boss was patient with me, but it was one of those things that it wasn't as much fun as opening, say, the Teatro up in Denver, because I'd had some experience. And I had to do it again just to make sure I wasn't crazy. But it was that whole thought process, the stress side of it, that I didn't enjoy as much. And yeah, you have stress running your own company, being an entrepreneur, being responsible for 1,000 people on site. It's a different kind of stress, and to me, it's a lot easier.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for another. Oh, go,
one more.
Lindsay. All right. Back table coming through.
You've been in so many different roles and you wore so many hats. Are there any?
That's why I'm bald.
So maybe worse. So are there any resources as far as books, maybe podcasts, or something along those lines that helped you in your career?
Modern Hotelier didn't exist back then. Podcast didn't exist back then. American Hotel Lodging Association had some great education opportunities as a GM. HSMAI, when I was in sales, was great. And then MPI and PCMA, some great educational offerings for both supplier and planner sides. I really think about that. Being on the board of MPI now, we think about that a lot. So, I just get involved. That's really what it comes down to. The more involved you are, the more opportunities you're going to have for that kind of stuff. But don't give everybody your email address. Oh my God. I get 200 emails a day, and 185 of them are delete.
I heard somebody making up a new email address for events.
Sure.
Is this becoming a common trend? I don't know. Has anybody done that in this room?
I've
Made
seen
up a fake email address?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because they're so unpersonalized emails
Right.
and the amount of spam you get. Is that a trend we're going to see more of?
I get a lot of personalized emails, and I'll respond to those.
Yes.
Like I just got one from a guy in Costa Rica this morning. We haven't done a program in Costa Rica in probably 15 years. and there's nothing coming up because we're not doing incentives anymore. And I sent them a nice note back saying, hey, thank you. I'm glad you're coming to town, but I think it'd be a waste of time for both of us. Best of luck. I'll respond to that.
Yeah.
And if somebody calls and leaves me a voicemail and it's personalized, I'll call them back. I was on the sales side for years. So it's if somebody's going to take the time to do that and track me down, I'll call them back. But it's the impersonal stuff that I'll just hit delete.
Agree. You have no idea how many tech companies reach out to us.
Oh my God.
Oh, we're interested in selling you a PMS for the modern hotelier. I'm like, we're not really a hotel, but thank you anyways. But
all right. Well, that does it for another episode of The Modern Hotelier, hospitality's most engaged podcast. Whether you're watching or listening or here in the audience, we appreciate you. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our podcast. We want to give a special thanks to HSMAI Southern Colorado chapter and to the Hotel Polaris. Thank you very much. Thank you, Steve.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Steve. This was great. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. That's good.
You made it to the end of The Modern Hotelier. Thanks for watching or listening. The Modern Hotelier is produced by Modern Hotelier Media. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you know a good guest, sponsor, or have media needs, feel free to reach out to us at hello@themodernhotelier.com. Thanks and have a great day.